Hi.
Among the personal feuds playing out on Twitter with the president involved, the president escalating one with his former attorney general, Jeff Sessions, who he appointed. The dispute over his recusal from the Russia investigation, the president is now calling on Sessions to drop out of the Alabama Senate race. Sessions firing back at his boss. Joining me now, former boss, I should say, CNN chief legal analyst Jeffrey Toobin. Jeffrey, always good to have you on. Sessions, one of the early endorsers of the president, and not quite lone, but one of the few sitting lawmakers to endorse the president early on in 2016. No love lost at this point. Let's listen to how the president attacked in very personal terms Jeff Sessions over the weekend.
Jeff Sessions was a disaster as Attorney General. Should have never been Attorney General. He's not qualified. He's not mentally qualified to be Attorney General. He was the biggest problem.
Jeff, perhaps first you could remind me who appointed Jeff Sessions before you react to the attack there and what's behind it.
Well, of course, it was President Trump who named him his first Attorney General. Just to remind people of the roots of this feud, Jeff Sessions was a major campaign surrogate for President Trump during 2016. When he became Attorney General, the investigation of the campaign began. And he, of course, properly recused himself. I can't lead an investigation of a campaign in which I was a principal part. So he turned the investigation over to his deputy, Rod Rosenstein, who in turn named Robert Mueller the special counsel. Because of that, Donald Trump has been deeply angry at Jeff Sessions ever since for recusing himself and leading to the Mueller investigation. Now that Sessions is running for his old seat in the Senate from Alabama, Trump is trying to take his revenge and, punish him in a state where the president is very popular.
And now in Bill Barr, the president has a much more aggressive attorney general, does he not? I mean, even on issues of recusal.
And one who is much more doing the president's personal bidding, whether it's trying to end the Michael Flynn case or doing all these investigations of the roots of the Mueller and Russia investigations, which is something the president has been complaining about ever since he took office. It is a very different Justice Department. I think a lot of people would have been surprised to think that Jeff Sessions, who was known as an extremely conservative senator, that is like the good old days compared to what's going on now in the Justice Department.
Yeah. So you bring up the Flynn case because it is truly remarkable. And for folks at home who might not have been following, I mean, let's just remind people. So Michael Flynn, he pleaded guilty, we should remind people, to lying to FBI investigators. The Justice Department, under a Republican appointee at the time, investigated him. But explain how unusual the Justice Department now dismissing its own case against Michael Flynn is. How unusual in your perspective?
Well, this has become quite tangled and bizarre. But, I've been around the criminal justice system my whole career. I have never heard, ever, of the Justice Department saying to a judge, well, this defendant, he pleaded guilty. He was advised by very competent lawyers. He's a very intelligent man. He pleaded guilty, but we think the case has no basis. And we think you, Judge Sullivan, should dismiss the case even though he's pleaded guilty. Judge Sullivan in Washington Federal District Court said, wait a second, I've never heard anything like this. I'm not sure I'm going to dismiss this case. In fact, I am going to name a former judge, John Gleeson from New York, to advocate on behalf of keeping the guilty plea and just letting this case proceed to sentencing. Michael Flynn's lawyers, his new lawyers, have appealed this ruling. They have said, look, you need to dismiss this case right away. You can't appoint this former judge. Just get rid of the case. That case is now on appeal. Jim, stick with me. It's not quite over. what happened
Well,
now?
just as you're telling it, what's remarkable is it's the Justice Department's own case that they're saying they want the judge to dismiss. But just but go on, because the details
well,
are
that's
amazing.
what's so bizarre. So that now in the appeals court, you have the prosecution and defense on the same side against the judge. So what happened just yesterday, or I guess the day before now, is that Judge Sullivan appointed a very distinguished Washington lawyer named Beth Wilkinson to represent him in the Court of Appeals. So Beth Wilkinson will be arguing against the Justice Department and Michael Flynn in the Court of Appeals, saying that this case needs more investigation. It shouldn't just be dismissed.
Mm. And we should note that she happens to be married to one of our colleagues, David Gregory. Listen, it's a remarkable case, worth watching, because it has precedent for how law is run in this country. Jeffrey Toobin, always good to have you on.
Alrighty, man. Happy Memorial Day.
Bye-bye.